And we're live. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm sure everyone's had a lot of enjoying summer so far, and grateful to have Julie come and join us today from Rentana. So before we get started, as we always talk about this for an introduction, welcome to Getting Hell Yes. And the Getting Hell Yes show, we have sellers talking to sellers about selling and property management. And one of the things we always try to find is a bit to share the stories around how we are all seeking to hell yes. Now, everyone knows that transparently, we are still trying to find our hell yes journey. And so part of this is about learning from everyone else around what hell yes looks and feels like, and how to get there. Because it isn't a straight line, despite what you look in every single like book or podcast or whatever. It is a jagged edge that we walk along to try and get to where we want to be from a product market fit perspective. Even like in Julie's case, when you've got multiple exits in terms of being able to create product that has attachment to it, that solves a problem, and then bring that to market. And then presumably, I mean, I hope you're getting better at this through every single iteration. Otherwise, you're just a straight up masochist. And again, hell yes buyer for everyone is someone who has identified their problem. They've maybe sought out, some cases they've even tried alternatives to solve that problem. And now they're seeking, to redo it again because that problem has persisted and the solution didn't solve the problem effectively. This is brought to you by IRCX. IRCX, we're AI remote maintenance software, property management space. We help you, activate remote maintenance, solve turns faster, add consistency to your whole resident inspection experience. And this is a pre-record this time. We do have live, but if you do ask any questions throughout the show, Julie and I will both get notifications for that on LinkedIn, and we'll be able to answer your questions to jump on that in near real time. So as we always start out the show, and Julie, thank you so much for joining us today. A little bit about yourself. I love the background, love some of your history, and then how did you get in this role today? And then what's the problem that Rentana solves?
Totally. Yeah. Thanks so much, Guillermo. I'm such a big fan. So excited to share more about the journey of how to get to hell yes. It's a journey I'm very familiar with, working with startups in my past life, and really can appreciate all of the challenges and the road to product market fit. But for everyone here, my name is Julie Blanc. I'm co-founder and CEO of Rentana. We're an AI-powered revenue intelligence platform for multifamily owners and operators. And I came into this space, and really multifamily in general, by way of venture capital and startups. I spent over a decade really helping leaders and entrepreneurs across finance, education, manufacturing, and sports. And I've always fallen in love with solving a problem, creating a solution, really seeing customers' eyes light up. And so it's been really a journey here. I have been really drawn to industries at inflection points where really the impact of the right innovation and the right moment can really transform an entire industry. And my co-founders and I, we really saw this as an opportunity. We've helped build really generational businesses such as Stripe, Airtable, Airbnb, and Appfolio. And we really saw the potential of next generation, revenue optimization and how that could really impact real estate and the multifamily industry. So we've really been excited about what we've been building, the feedback from the customers, and really the impact that we've been making so far.
That is amazing. And so a bit about your journey post VC, because you started a couple startups, exited those, and then through some sort of like psychotic notion within your DNA, you decided to start another startup. Can you share a little bit about that? Because that helps frame the problem that you solve today.
Yeah, of course. I've had the opportunity to work really closely with some of the most incredible founders and really been at, Series B, Series A, and then now really right at the ground level of starting startups. And, I've been the first investor in startups that ended up listing on the stock exchange and actually ended up sort of selling to private equity as well. So really seeing their dreams come true has always just been, an inspiration of mine. And so my co-founders and I are, they're truly some of the best engineers I've had the pleasure of partnering with over the past decade. And that's how this sort of all came to be. We really saw industries that are moving fast with AI, automation, sort of real-time data. And we saw a number of challenges with a lot of the black box, pricing and existing systems that are out there today. And a lot of the UI, UX challenges, we really didn't see platforms being a partner and really helping enable the users. And we really think that just given where software is today, from where data is, the fact that you can actually talk to your data and use it in a much more advanced format, just where we are in the computing landscape, coupled with we've now seen, you and I probably love all these consumer products and these beautiful, right? So Silicon Valley products. And we love to bring that kind of architecture as well to what we do with a really elegant UI, UX. And we try to distill what are very complex, right, systems and problems, but how do we really surface to our users the most important information? How do we show it in a much more simple format so anyone can approach the data and the problem? Those are some of the things that we're really passionate about, and was really something that I had seen across the different industries and the startups that I was in. And then also once we were spending time with our customers here, that's just been a big part of our ethos as well.
So is the problem that there's existing revenue management systems are hard to use, or is that revenue management is still yet to be unpacked? Like with respect to Rentana, what makes you guys different? Is it the UI UX and enablement for the right user persona, or is it the fact that this revenue management itself is a bit of it's unfolding?
It's unfolding. There's a number of areas that you're hitting on, and I think that's also why we're closer to, right, sort of hell yes, is because there are so many pain points that we are able to address with our solution, and they build on each other, right, as well. And so I think it's number one, everyone's looking for a compliant and safe solution. So our big thing is our customers' data is our customers' data. It should never go to another customer in any format. We have that written all over our contracts and also in our solution, and as well from a technical standpoint. And then also, we've seen, right, the advances of revenue management, the success in other industries. And so we're really trying to bring that here as well. And so it's usability, it's also performance, and then it's also transparency. Transparency is really at the core of everything that we do. We don't just show you your data. We're going to show you exactly how we got there, explain the algorithm, explain the weights, explain the logic, let you see all of your data, actually be able to talk to your data as well. So we really empower our customers, and we really think that they know what's going on best, right, sort of at their properties and at their assets. And we're just going to be this data layer to help you tell that story, execute on that, and really make smarter, faster decisions.
So let's talk about revenue management then. So revenue management, how does that fit into, for those that have maybe caught the headlines or maybe have a half-formed opinion, how does revenue management come to play? Maybe in the case of a stabilized building, or maybe a lease-up?
Yeah, two different things. And you definitely need a system. You need a system that's flexible enough to adapt to those two different asset strategies and goals. And we let you do that. We go all the way down to the asset level. You can put in your goals down to the month, down to the type of unit or unit type as well. We know that there's multiple strategies often at play, even within an asset, right, as well. So you want something that's dynamic and flexible enough to adopt that. But really, you can't optimize what you can't see, right? And so I think it's super important that you have a system that's transparent, lets you put in the settings that you have for your goals, your strategy. You might be wanting to sell a building, you might be wanting to hold on to it. It's a totally different, sort of ultimate story that you need for the asset. And then you really need a system that is updating you every single day, taking all of those supply and demand metrics in. That's far harder than be able to do that by a spreadsheet or by hand or by looking at various market data in delay. You need something that's real time and putting that full picture together. And that's really what we do. And so we'll help you customize for either of those sets, right? If you're a stabilized property or if you're a lease up, we'll help make sure those goals are articulated in the platform. And then actually is, where the AI is going every day. You'll be able to review that every day. You'll be able to get suggestions from the platform and actually be able to take action to reach your goals.
So when you think about like the segmentation of the data with respect to separation of church and state, given the complexity of ownership relationships in multifamily or in property management, what is the, or at least how do you guys approach the fabric of ownership structures and data segregation at Rentana versus kind of like what we've heard in the news with other sort of scenarios?
Of course. We only look at publicly available sources for the market comps. We do believe in bringing in that part of the picture, but it's also a fully flexible platform. If the ownership group or the management group is not comfortable with any comps data in any format, you can turn that off in our system as well. So we give people that full flexibility, but public comps and comps data in general, it's only public and it'll never come from another customer in any format, even if that property was on Rentana. That's never something that ever, the systems never touch each other.
So a few problems I'm hearing that people have to manage through is that there's the original kind of like tracking of the goals for that property, the investment. There's the pricing of all the units to achieve those goals, right? And that, I imagine that would include duration in addition to the price point. Especially day and age, I think it just even came out today, talking about concessions for rental units, because that's coming up, like managing the concession pieces, because that's got to be complicated. And then finally, making sure that the data that you're using is compliant for all that pricing, because all those, if you're trying to seek in kind of like an inside lane on that data by seeking non-compliant data, that's going to compromise your standing, your good standing and license to operate. And so all of those right now are done by, like, in the absence of revenue management software, who does all that work?
An analyst.
An analyst in the building or in corporate?
So we often see it in corporate. Really depends on the structure of the company and the resources that they have, right? I mean, you're centralizing more and more, and pricing ends up being on someone's plate that, you know, maybe is on site and has so many other responsibilities, but they also need to be keeping up with the market and keeping up with, you know, reacting to the demand that they're seeing and making adjustments. But it's very hard to be fully informed with so much data at your fingertips and not be able to synthesize that data, especially if that's not your day to day.
So then, given that pricing, like when revenue management comes into play, is something that is held in a corporate function, is it even practical to think about on-site leasing? Like, I mean, it sounds like to me that you're throwing it, you do an on-site leasing experience, but then you're right away going to have to revert to a corporate approval for the pricing on that lease versus being able to sign things then and there.
Really depends on the company. Some people want to keep that decision at corporate. Some people have it as part of the on-site team and they're empowered as well. We have clients that are in both camps and scenarios. Our recommendations, they fully write out in English exactly how we got there from the pricing plus the graphs and all the data to get there. That's been a game changer for every type of user. And so that's really been at the forefront of the conversation for our customers. They say they no longer have to wrestle with data and piece all of that together. They actually can have their conversations be that much more strategic because everybody gets that information and gets that explanation. They don't have to be a data scientist.
Well, it's got to be like the site team has so many different pulls for their attention.
Yeah.
Trying to be aligned with the strategy for the property or the investor and the strategy of just getting the unit leased. Like those, I mean, it may not be apparent, but they can create a conflict with respect to what deal you're signing.
It's, you know, the prospect is right there in front of me. I want to, you know, sort of sell to them right away, right, and not have them get away. So maybe, right, they end up changing the price. We often see that, or you know, sometimes the strategy isn't fully visible to everyone, right, as well, and they don't know how it all fits into the bigger picture. So that's why we really believe in the power of software and just being able to distill all that information so that everyone has something super contextual and can make the decisions for the goals of the overall business in lockstep.
So like, what happens if they don't have revenue management systems? Like, what's the world where how does that, like, what does that feel like?
It's a lot more invisible. It's a lot more, you know, really data dry, if you will, right, as well. And so I think it depends on the business. Some markets are much more apt for it, and some markets, you know, they really end up missing out on a lot of opportunities because they aren't taking advantage of very seasonal, you know, sort of trends in those markets and making sure that you're signing the right leases. You're also taking your renewals into account. You're taking in amenities into account, concessions, as you were mentioning. It's a lot to manage by hand or, you know, sort of in a souped up spreadsheet. Obviously, some people can do it. Depends on the size of your portfolio. But, you know, we really believe in giving everyone time back to really be able to connect with the customer, especially as you're mentioning on-site teams. It's important that they're selling and they're spending time with the residents. They're spending time with the tenants. They're actually delivering the customer value and the brand. And that's super important. And so it's always, how do we pull people out of wrestling with data and spreadsheets and just give them value and let them really perform at their best?
Are you finding like that like moving like the data dry or language, like data dry, it's very opaque. We don't know what's going on. And we're talking about millions and millions of dollars here in the grand scheme of things. And even it's not just in aggregate at the individual property level, it can be millions of dollars, especially when you consider cap rates. And then when you get into like other revenue related news items, like you see, I think it's in the last, and again, I haven't been following the news too closely in the last couple of weeks, but like rent control is popping up as a conversation item, and revenue management is falling kind of like aligned with that conversation, or at least it's very near to the conversation. Like and I'm a free market person. Everyone knows me, knows that. But like, how are we navigating? Like, in my mind, I don't know. In your mind, how does revenue management, help enable the objectives that rent control is trying to achieve?
We're really at the forefront of making sure that every individual unit finds the right buyer, right, and finds the right tenant. There's one unit that might be, a totally different sort of facing, or might be better for someone with a dog, or might be better sort of access for someone for some reason, or more sort of on their sort of time frame given what their role is for the day to day. I mean, there's really there's a number of opportunities to really make sure that every individual unit finds the right person that really values every attribute of that unit, or the timing, or the price of that unit. And so I think it's a very unique and sort of marketing and sales conversation there. Our platform helps manage all of the regulations around rent control as well. So you can put them in at the asset level and then make sure that no one is executing anything and providing renewals or leases in any sort of intervals or amounts, right, that are not allowed by those local regulations as well. Right. And so especially if you're managing a building that has both market rate plus some controlled units, this really becomes a lot more complex, and you definitely want to make sure that that's operationally sound and actually really well executed. But really, we end up increasing occupancy, right, for our customers. I mean, we really see that time and time again. And so on that mission of really trying to provide more housing in America and trying to make sure that sort of the ultimate renters find the units that they can. I mean, that's really individualized and sort of specialized, sort of pricing platforms can really help enable that and make sure that those get to the right people.
So when they're out there looking at, like, this is just one more layer of complexity, right, into this whole, like, how do you close a deal on a unit, is not only how do I get the data to price it correctly, but how did and that the price is priced correctly, aligned with the investor goals, but along with the fact that I need to be able to satisfy any sort of other obligations within my jurisdiction. One more layer of complexity that people need to manage and consider, which makes it even harder if you're an on-site team. And I mean, and I'm certain you guys enable on-site teams as well as centralized teams, but it's like there's one more thing to keep track of to make sure you're on side. Because if you are offside, legislation has shown that they favor the renter heavily relative to the landlord. And so you want to do everything you can to be compliant, in addition to price it correctly, in addition to achieve your goals. And those things are like, that's a lot of stuff to take care of at a leasing agent level, which can be often an entry-level position in property management.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a number, right, of examples of really, how important it is to price correctly, to get your goals and to actually achieve them. And then really having a platform that helps streamline transparency, communication, ease of use, to really make sure that all those pitfalls that you just mentioned are not, structural and operational issues that don't let you hit your goals.
So when you guys look at like the AI piece, right? So how did you imagine the AI, because a lot of these things are kind of like a rules engine. When you get into the AI part of it at all, how does that make Rentana different?
Yeah, we have AI explanations all throughout the platform, and we really envision that for every part of the modules. It's really about how do you unlock the potential of your data. So we actually have a way for you to chat with your own PMS data, and then also see the trends of those publicly available data only. We pair all of that together to actually create summaries. People love sharing those around for part of their pricing reviews and their sort of internal meetings. As I mentioned, it really changes the conversation from just picking at numbers, but actually seeing trends, being able to see around the corner as well, really being able to anticipate. And even one of our clients, 29th Street, we were so excited to work with them. They really saw this in practice. They looked at all the platforms out there. They looked at 8 different platforms. They ended up choosing a head-to-head of us and another well-known startup out there, and really tested both products, had them out in the market for over a quarter. We were able to deliver 4.6 million increase in asset value, 3.5% increase in NRI, and then 1.5 times sort of increase in asset value compared to the other platform out there. And really that was just, night and day of actually being able to see the system in the real world, right? Actually see it, with renters, with asset managers, seeing it in person, seeing it in practice with the customers. But then even just beyond looking at the industry, we really went above and beyond on executing. We shipped over 125 features during that 90-day period where we were in that evaluation. We responded within 5 minutes versus days for tickets. And then also another big differentiator of Rentana is that you can actually onboard new properties. Once you're trained, we can onboard them same day. It doesn't take 6 weeks to onboard a new property. And that's also a game changer, especially in asset management, as you're managing timelines, trying to reach goals, acquiring properties, and really measuring towards that.
You bring up the onboarding piece, brings up a great segue to like offboarding. Like when a property is sold or offboarded, like that I find that that's much messier than onboarding. Like because there's a chain of custody over the data. So how do you manage that data when it's an offboarding situation? Building's been sold, your buyers stays on Rentana, but the building itself and everything that goes with it's gone to somewhere else. Where does that data go? Does it go with the building or does it stay within your buyer?
If it's no longer their property, then we will, so obviously no longer sync and no longer have that data. We will work with, if ultimately, right, we ended up getting a new client on the platform, and then if they bring over and they have the rights to, right, bring over as much historical data as they negotiated or were able to have, we will work with them. But it really depends contract by contract and client by client, and we don't mix client data at all. So
that being a core differentiator, right? It's like we can't forget there's tons of transactions that still occur. And so we've got like the fabric of different ownership groups, and then that data that can or cannot be shared. And then you've got the transition of properties given the investment strategy, and that can or cannot be shared. And so all of this stuff again gets really complicated if it's a Google, if it's a spreadsheet, right?
Totally.
Like how do you even separate that data, and how do you prove that because the onus of proof of compliance is on the buyer, and that onus of proof is not very clean if it's all within a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's a case-by-case basis, and definitely just something we have to cross our T's and I's for.
So when people come to look to you for a solution, have they been like, what's their motivation? Is it principally more revenue, or is it that compliance has become a problem and they've got to be able to move, faster and be compliant at the same time?
It's really reaching their goals. So it could be more revenue, it could be more occupancy. It really depends on what their North Star is. We'll help them orient towards that. But usually there's been some sort of struggle of performance, and then also just misalignment, right, internally, and lack of transparency. Some people are also, very hesitant about change management. So they really want to feel confident that there's training and that there's support and that there actually is a system that they will view, that they will understand and be able to use and optimize to reach their goals. So that usability is also super important. The compliance piece is table stakes. I mean, there's no business without obviously making sure that your data is safe. That is very important, but we find that foundational in everything that we do. And then really we try to, increase performance from that table stakes.
But it's interesting that the way you've described the differentiation, the segmentation of the data, is that there's table stakes and there's competitive differentiation around compliance, right? And they're two different things. Like if you look at the feature sheet, everyone's on the tick box. But it sounds like you guys have it a little bit different. You take it a little bit differently from a competitive differentiation perspective.
We've tried to address all the pain points, right, that we hear from our customers that have come from manual pricing, but also have come from legacy systems as well. So it's transparency, it's fully explaining with the algorithm, no more black boxes. It's really speed of the platform. So that's onboarding new properties, getting your data in there, being able to actually price and actually reach your goals and be in the market and performing. It's pairing that public comp data as well. We do have that for you. And so people do want to have that complete picture and not have to go to multiple different platforms or not see those trends as well. And then it's your data. You have an API. We have Excel exports as well. You can work with the data. We have report builders. We have chatbots for you to be able to speak to your data as well. So we have a few different ways for you to really get the most value, interact with your information, collaborate with your teams. And then also really these summaries and these AI insights across every part of your portfolio, across your concessions, across your amenities, across your comps, across your pricing trends at various, all the way from the portfolio down to the unit level, and really let you zoom in and out quite elegantly.
So then when your buyers come and look, they're seeking information, they're kind of moving themselves down the buyer's journey. What's typically the compelling event that they need to act on or act by in order to make sure that they're making a decision? Like, is it like all of a sudden we've won a deal or we've got to lease up 1,000 units, or is it like you mentioned earlier, performance? Is kind of like, performance is a funny one because it often doesn't prompt immediate action, but like, are there external events that occur that prompt people to select a revenue management software?
Obviously, new asset strategies, as you were mentioning, if you have a new lease up, you have new goals, you want to be able to use a system that can execute towards that. That's definitely an event. There's obviously always budget season, right? Assessing and trying to reach your goals, and how do we actually give ourselves enough time well in advance of that, of being able to actually learn a new system, implement it, and then actually use that to underwrite and be able to execute towards the next year as well. And then, obviously it's just goals of the business, right? And sort of where you want to go. Some people really see where they've been lacking, right? Or gaps in their performance. And so they got to shake things up.
Do you find that, like, as we're kind of heading into the Q2 is like or Q3 is like the planning before the planning, like we're kind of getting into budget season, first revisions are probably due September, and then there's second revisions, et cetera. Do you find that your positioning and your maybe awareness activities are starting to really arc upwards and peak upwards, like for this quarter, or even this next 45 days as you kind of angle into September?
I think it's that angling into and sort of that entire goal setting and process around budgeting season, but also leasing season. So we're in the heat of leasing season right now in many jurisdictions and sort of for many properties as well. And so that's often also ahead of leasing season is another sort of big moment throughout the year. If you want to make sure that you have the right software under your feet and you have the right tools that really help you anticipate, so you aren't making decisions and choices that will have much longer term consequences.
Yeah, for sure. And it is interesting that kind of like in these dog days of summer, we're really starting to figure out the strategic direction and choices that will be executed, in 2026.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is an interesting business to be in right now, because like in many businesses, you can't get a hold of anybody right now, but the people that are making these kinds of decisions are very quick to answer the phone these days.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's where Rentana is different, right? We really built a platform to simplify execution and elevate decision making, and it's really intuitive for operators and powerful for strategists. We give teams clear visibility into what's working, what's not, how to react in real time. And I think the word is really getting out as people talk to more and more of our customers of really a system that helps empower them, gives them that transparency, and actually enables them to execute.
So then how do you find the people that are seeking change or seeking to solve a problem?
A number of means. So it's really, I think it's
what do you look for to filter on them, right? Is it that they've got a news event happen, or how do you shortlist the whatever, let's call it 10 million or 10,000 property managers out there? Like, how do you filter on that list so you're talking to people that are most likely to buy your software?
Yeah, great question. So we spend a lot of time at the trade shows. We work with, industry leaders and those who really, are identifying other companies and are identifying peers that are looking for new technology. We're always wanting to partner with individuals such as that. We also very much sell into when it is sort of a decision, right, at corporate. We will work really closely with the asset management team, the revenue management team. If it's a third party owner and they have those services as well, we'll partner really closely with teams that are executing that. Or it could also be the operations side, right? If pricing falls under them. So we're constantly trying to figure that out at every company. Where are we making those decisions? How is pricing managed? Is it individual properties centralized? How does that work? Is it touching on as well? And then, on top of that, we integrate with MS systems. That's another big. We want to be able to service right away and be able to service those customers. So we you already enjoy that investment. We're adding more integration by the day. And so we also try to really work with customers we can service the next day.
Gotcha. And so when you take a look at the elements of what is in place so that your customers be successful, like how do you figure out the ones that you can create the greatest net impact, right? Like here was today, you're up 50%, or you got $4.6 million. Like how do you begin to filter on what those customers look like?
So we work with customers to understand their starting point, do a full assessment and audit of where the property is when we start, and then we start measuring. We will create recommendations every day. We see how often those get actually implemented, and then we start to see, those changes, and it'll always adapt to those, what the latest pricing changes were, and then continue to create recommendations to help you reach your goals. Sometimes you'll want to do changes on a much more frequent basis because there's a lot of movements in your market. Sometimes less frequent is adequate enough. And so we work really closely with customers to get that right balance of what is needed for their market, for their asset strategy. But we're also looking at the building, right, holistically, trying to understand what are your renewals coming up? What are those, trading at? What should the strategy be there? Those all are in concert in the platform so that you aren't executing one strategy with one side and then, not with the other as well.
So when you guys are getting out there and folks are, let's with respect to the status quo, not too much like other revenue management software programs out there, but like you take a look at people who object to adopting revenue management, what kind of objections do you hear?
We hear a number of objections from some of the feedback that our clients and prospects have said about some competitors out there. It's really about the usability of the existing software out there, the UI, UX. I know that sounds simple, but really you can waste an incredible amount of time having to really wrestle with the system, and then also having to extract and create your own BI and graphs because the system didn't give that to you. That really should be instant, just given the way that the technology works today and that it is your data. You shouldn't have to piece it together from 7 different systems to be able to unlock it. So that's important. We also hear, people are saying from other platforms, they're not getting the insights that they need. And then that's again, where they're almost being a data analyst, or they're hiring consultants to help them operate the software, which is really just another headcount expense. And really, it's just really expensive, right? Sort of for the teams, especially if they can't afford it in-house, to have to resort to that. And then really, one of our customers, Robert Waz from 29th Street, I think he said it best that other products out there are like Windows 1995 and Rentana 25.
Yeah, there's a big one. It looks a lot like Windows 95 out there. So when you take a look at, I think what's interesting when you talk about insights, right?
Yeah.
And so, insights is valuable. It's a vague term. It's used by everybody. But the one thing that strikes me in the pricing context is that we can talk about insights and maintenance as an example, or operations, but those are not the job.
Yeah.
Like in pricing, insights is the job.
Correct.
And that's why, we can talk about insights kind of loosely, but if you don't have insights, you're pricing blindly, you're leaving money on the table. And that happens transaction by transaction. So that's, I think that's what's critical to kind of like put your heads around, is that competing on insights and maintenance may be a second or third priority with respect to selection, but it's something that everyone has to have, but it's nice to have. I might not look at it once a month, but in pricing, you're looking at those insights every single transaction.
Yeah.
So the insights, the AI opportunity in a pricing perspective is so much higher, because it's not about mean time between failure for a piece of equipment. It's about, what should you be pricing this particular transaction on? So those insights, any maturity curve, those insights are going to drive into, recommendations. Insights is kind of what happened, and here's something about it. And there's recommendations. You get into predictive, and you get into prescriptive, if then this. And so that opportunity to be able to attach value from an AI perspective at the transaction level is really high for pricing. And so the current state of using Excel to kind of track things, like you can create a pretty big gap between using manual process and AI-driven process. Yeah. The fact that insights drive the nature of every single transaction.
Yeah.
And do you find, what's that like? Like when you bring on a user and they go, oh my God, this usually takes me 2 days. Like, what's that look on their face?
Oh, it makes it all worth it, really. I mean, it is the most, we're so thankful for all of the, all the aha moments and the magic, right, that we see from our customers. But it's incredibly tangible, the impact that we are able to give our customers on their productivity, B, on achieving their goals, C, executing on their business as well. And so it's very specific, and we can make a lot of very specific impacts on a daily basis, right? We're regenerating these insights every single day. And so we're constantly trying to make sure that our customers really are proactive and not reactive. I think a lot of systems are beautiful dashboards and reports, but you have to analyze it and see the patterns and sort of get that synthesis versus actually being able to do sort of forward-looking calculations on exposure and understanding what's coming around the corner and be able to do something about it today so you don't have a problem tomorrow. And that's really the difference.
So then kind of like to kind of get us to the halfway point here, the problem is that pricing is exceptionally complicated.
Yeah.
It's very dynamic. It moves in real time. The people that are doing doing the actual contract proposals, they're often either on site, new to the business, maybe new to the company, and there's got to be some sort of control because whatever contracts you sign, those are driving the NOI of the building, that drives the overall asset value. And so we can cut back the leakage on pricing. We can add a lot of kind of like free money to the NOI in the NOI context, which then gives us free asset value. So that's all awesome stuff. If you don't do it, like kind of what's the risk of not adopting revenue management? You have a compliance problem, which you end up in the news. That's no good. And you have obviously an lost opportunity. I can't say opportunity cost, but lost opportunity with respect to revenue that could have been captured that's not captured any further. And maybe and it's not just pricing more, it could be actually pricing to market to make sure that unit is filled. So there's a vacancy element to it as well, for risk of vacancy because you're not pricing appropriate to the market. And that would include the concessions and tracking all the concessions, et cetera. And so those are some of the problems that people are trying to solve. And the things that they choose, like conventionally, they try to use internal analysts who are bringing in all these feeds from everywhere. They're really trying to work hard to segregate the data, but it's practically impossible if it's all processed by a single person. And then all of this data has to get reported back to the owners.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and there's different ownership groups, particularly if you're a third party or you're managing more than one asset, there's different ownership groups that all require different, at minimum segregated information that generally looks the same. But segregating that data is going to be very difficult if you don't have all these controls and compliance in place. And then ultimately, if you've got all that identified as a problem, you want to get to the point that you're getting recommendations in real time that are compliant for the pricing for the lease that you're signing today, tomorrow, the next day, because you want to be able to capture as much revenue as possible. So that's why everyone's talked about revenue management. Did I get most of it there?
You did. I will say, we normally contract with the parent company. Maybe that's just one nuance that normally that's where those contracts and that sort of strategy and philosophy is sort of coming through. And so, but obviously sometimes they will bring in different groups and on-site teams to be part of the review process. But I would say that's just one part. But yes, exactly. That's the complexity, but also why you need a system that's elegant, that's intuitive, that's fast and transparent to address all those points and also make that work in concert as well, because you need to be able to see the data and understand if price is the issue or if price isn't the issue. And the data can show you, that you have, some leakage in marketing, or the people are not following up with the sales leads, or the pricing on the website doesn't match the pricing that you have internally in your system. You wouldn't, there's a lot of edge cases, but being able to have that information right there and be able to diagnose it, do something about it. And then also you're always going to improve what you're measuring on a regular basis as well. And so really we're a platform to be a workflow partner with our customers and be able to help them guide them towards their goals and to have that transparency and efficiency.
Outstanding. Do you ever get customers that said no, that, we got this, like we call it the Heisman right now, right? And then they say not right now, and then they come back pleading and crying. Like
we do have that.
Let me buy, please.
Yeah, we do. We have people. I can do it myself. I'm like, okay, by all means, that's fine. I'm always here. If you want to just try it a little bit, I'm always here. But honestly, that's also sometimes our best customers is those that have tried to do it, completely themselves, have try different tools or completely abandon tools, and then start to really, I think the problem actually becomes that much louder, sort of for them, if that's really not something that they're going to have, the full time and energy to dedicate to, which they really need for the performance. So sometimes
we find the exact same situation where those that have tried to solve it themselves, like I kind of have this like perspective, generally speaking, people try to hire people, they try to hire third-party consultants, or they try and use software and systems. And software and systems is like usually the third choice, because the first two is hard to get fired for doing. But you can get, if you make a recommendation for software or solutions, you're attracting attention that you may not otherwise want to attract. And but I can staff with people, but if I can't find the people to do the job, then all of a sudden I can't do the job I'm guessing at my leasing. That's complicated.
Yeah.
And then you look kind of like silly with your hands in your pockets, staring at your shoes, asking, why didn't you use, what a readily available revenue management software to be able to make sure we sign the right leases, right?
Yeah.
And so like having the foresight of what's coming down the pipe with respect to demand for leasing must be part of what you're looking for from a hell yes buyer, because those that haven't felt the pain of a bad mistake or maybe a hire that didn't get filled, those can go out the side of the pipeline, or at least our experience. And then it's those that have like, no, I've tried this. So I have very clear evaluation criteria. Not only do I know what it needs to do, but I know what it doesn't need to do. And then now I'm a hell yes. Like one of the things that we're trying to figure out is how do you find those buyers, right? And so we're always looking for things like job postings, like just how people are exposing their alternatives, of how to solve that problem. Yeah. It makes for interesting conversation, right? Because like we find sometimes we're like, hey, you're bringing on 2,000 units. How are you going to do it? Well, we typically bring on the maintenance people from the existing building. Oh, how does that work out? Well, usually they leave. Okay, then what happens then? Then they got to hire new jobs. Then what happens then? Well, this is why we've got, 75 job openings right now. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so that means you do have budget, because you've got like 700, you've got 65 job postings out there. So let's not talk about like, you don't have a software budget, but you've got like $3.5 million of salaries that you have not spent this year.
Totally.
So, you've got money somehow, somewhere.
Yeah.
So what's that?
That's a good tip.
Well, just try to figure out, navigate ways to find the budget, right?
Yes.
Yes. So when you take a look at your background, especially given the history of where you guys came from, your background, your different startups, even as you're getting into now, and where you guys are scaling up rapidly with Rentana, what's a bit of advice you give either yourself in a prior, 10 years ago, or somebody who's coming in right now to Rentana to start and wants to be a kick-ass salesperson? What do you tell them?
We are customer centric through and through. That's, we live for our customers. We love partnering with them. We love partnering with really thought leaders, helping us shape the product roadmap, helping make sure that we're really solving those core pain points, as you were mentioning. How do we make sure that it really is a hell yes, right? It's an instant, I really need this product. I really need these features. I really need these reports. I really need this intelligent way to interact with my data, to change my workflow. And I need it tomorrow, right? I need it right away. And so I think it's really spending time with the customers, really getting deep, understanding exactly their workflows, really partnering with them. How can we be, a great partner to them, and really, help them not on this journey with these assets today, but even for the future, right? And long-term and beyond, where that's constantly where we're trying to push. And I find that incredibly important, and just important for all of our teammates, and really, those who have been just incredible and sort of stand out. It's really all about spending time with the customers, really making sure we understand their needs and really address them as much as we can.
Do you find that when we relying on our customers, we do the same thing. Like we just pushed a feature out just the other day, and it was like we check with the customer on the problem, independent of checking check with the customer on the solution. So we're not trying to butter our own bread, and make sure that we're just like we're actually answering the bell.
Yeah.
And that's been very successful. The challenge we often find is that customers, it's that balance of what customer demand is, and then your roadmap target, and understanding that your roadmap target should be influenced by your customers, but it can't be pulled in different directions by your customers.
No.
I'm trying to figure out what that feels like. This is something we deal with lots. Then again, like when we talk about who should talk to next, who do you think would be a great guest to come back on the show and talk about Get a Hell Yes? And for everyone listening, Darcy Forbes introduced
I know, I was gonna say Darcy. I love Darcy.
Yeah, Darcy Forbes introduced us, and so that's the handoff there.
Yeah, of course. I think Joe D. Ray from Cura, he's fantastic. I think you should definitely. He's been a leader in prop tech for quite some time. Really has spent a number of years with businesses of different sizes, and really is leading a new fintech product. So I think
Cura? No, not Cura. How do you spell it?
Cura, Qira, is the product.
Qira. All right, I'll reach out to him, and we'll if we need an introduction, we'll lean on that. Well, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks for navigating some of the kind of complicated questions around compliance and the news, all that stuff around rent management, because it's in the news. So I think that at least at the very minimum, someone's saying if they don't have rent management, they're like, geez, they're aware that they need to have rent management at minimum, which is helpful. It's like us in centralization. Everyone's talking about it. So that's, let's attach ourselves to that conversation. So that's always healthy. And even if they don't know what they're looking for, at least the fact they're asking questions creates an opportunity for a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for your input on being customer centric and seeking input from your customers in terms of how how you get things done. And they're the ones that pay, so they're the ones that have a vote in the success of the endeavor. And so it's helpful to have those conversations. So appreciate that. Thank you for.
I have one more person for who you should talk to next. I actually think you should talk to Robert Waz, our client from 29th Street. He's really leading the charge on revenue management and innovation, and really can bring that perspective as well. So.
Love it. And 29th Street's great because they're vertically integrated owner operators, right?
They're amazing. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. I'll reach out to him as well. And it's helpful to have some of those operators on because there's different sides of the conversation than just those that are selling. Right on. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. If you're following us on the podcast, please hit the subscribe button. It helps everyone find us a whole lot easier. Add any comments, and we'll get notified and get response to that. If you're watching this on LinkedIn on one of the replays, or just caught it on LinkedIn through one of the posts, obviously leave some comments there. We'll both get notified on that and get a chance to respond and answer any questions you have. Julie, thank you so much today. Really appreciate your time and energy, and congratulations on all the hard work at Rentana. It's outstanding to hear the story.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been an honor.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Take care and have a